now been 1 week since the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy is now at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, a place that's been described as hell on earth. Fox 5's Lisa Evers is at MDC right now on Diddy's life behind bars. Lisa, what are you finding out tonight?
Well, Natasha and Steve, for the first time in his life, Sean Diddy Combs has spent a week behind bars. He's here inside MDC, where he's been since his arrest on Monday night on federal sex trafficking and other charges, to all of which he's pleaded not guilty. There's no VIP section. There is no concierge, only conmen, killers, and kingpins. MDC is so bad, federal judges have questioned the harsh conditions for those here awaiting trial. So bad, I was here 2 years ago during a cold spell, reporting on detainees with no heat, pounding on windows for help. There was even a congressional inquiry. But take the word of a former inmate I spoke with who goes by Esco.
It's terrible. The food is terrible. Of course, the inmates are terrible. The guards are terrible. The conditions are terrible. It's just terrible.
The inmates that you're surrounded around, just in general, a lot of them are brought up on pretty heavy federal indictments, right? So just in terms of the atmosphere there, it's just certainly one that no one wants to be in.
Combs was placed in a special housing unit and on suicide watch, the standard protocol for high-profile celebrity detainees. The disgraced mogul was denied bail by 2 separate judges. His attorney, Mark Agnifilo, asked the court to transfer him to the federal detention section at the Essex County Jail, but the judge deferred to the Bureau of Prisons. Federal trial attorney Philip Hamilton says lockdown can mean a lot less time to prepare your defense.
In terms of fighting their case, it just makes it all the more difficult, because now in terms of you being able to communicate with your attorney, you are at the realms of just what's going on with respect to the facility. Is it on lockdown? Is the facility letting visitors in?
Detainees on suicide watch wear tearaway paper hospital-style garments and rubber shower shoes.
Diddy Combs, one of the most recognized figures in hip-hop, has been living a life of luxury and fame for decades. His status as a music mogul, entrepreneur, and icon has allowed him access to the finer things in life, from lavish mansions to private jets and extravagant parties.
Isolation may be the worst part for Combs. It's being done for his protection in the violence-prone facility. He will have no bunkie.
He's probably not going to have any contact with any other inmates. So for him, it's going to be a little different than for a person like me, where I will go in, I will go through process and intake, and then they'll assign me a cell, and I'll have a bunkie or a cellmate, and I'll be in population.
For him to be able to get out at this point, it just doesn't look good.
Now, we reached out to Combs' attorney but did not get a response. We also reached out to the Bureau of Prisons. They confirmed to us that Combs is in fact detained here at MDC. For how long remains to be seen. We're live at MDC in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. I'm Lisa Evers, Fox 5.
His world has collapsed, leaving him in an unimaginable situation, a federal prison, facing charges that could result in a life sentence. The fall from grace is stark, as he confronts a reality far removed from anything he might have envisioned for his future.
From his $48 million Miami mansion to hell on earth where chaos reigns. Just some of the words used to describe the Metropolitan Detention Center where Sean Diddy Combs is now being held without bail after pleading not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering charges.
Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
He is not the first high-profile inmate to pass through these walls. Ghislaine Maxwell, R. Kelly, Pharma Bro, Martin Shkreli, and crypto fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried, all as they waited for their federal criminal trials, called this jail home. But the conditions of the prison are far from homey, notoriously described as, quote, dreadful, as one judge put it. Some on the bench have even moved away from sending nonviolent defendants there. In April, a group of detainees that prosecutors said were MS-13 gang members in court documents stabbed an inmate 44 times in an attack caught on camera. 2 shivs were recovered from the attack. You see them here. The victim survived. And in the last 3 years alone, 4 inmates have died by suicide. And violence is not the only issue. Accusations of medical neglect, staffing shortages, smuggling of drugs, some allegedly facilitated by employees. At least 6 staff members charged with crimes in the last 5 years, according to the AP. Some accused of accepting bribes and providing contraband.
I've had clients describe MDC as hell. as the worst conditions they've been in.
Lance A. Clark is a federal defense attorney who's been there many times.
Now, if the government is going to mandate that they are responsible for your well-being, they have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
Occupy the streets until they get heat.
In the winter of 2019, protests over a power outage left inmates without light or heat for a week in the cold.
I understand how cold it must be in those cells, and not to have any electricity, any lights, and to not be able to communicate with your family is just inhumane.
The prison has about 1,200 detainees and is the only federal prison in the nation's largest city.
The charges have tarnished his public image, plunging him into one of entertainment's most notorious legal battles. Since his arrest, Diddy has been held without bail at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, marking a dramatic turn in his life and career amidst widespread scandal and scrutiny.
DOJ shut down New York City's other federal jail, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, back in 2021, 2 years after Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide there. A Bureau of Prisons spokesman telling NBC News they, quote, take seriously addressing the staffing and other challenges at MDC Brooklyn, adding the director appointed an urgent action team and they've increased staffing.
MDC has historically had tremendous problems and the problems aren't resolved.
Combs' lawyers originally hoping he could await trial under house arrest at his mansion, now arguing for him to be moved to a prison in New Jersey in the lead up to this trial, citing the prison's poor conditions, violence, and deaths. On Wednesday, his lawyer said he was being held in a special housing unit with an extra level of security.
Yasmin's back with us now. So what is next? Is he going to be in jail in this facility until the trial begins? Is there a chance he could, get moved earlier than that?
As of this moment, as of this hour, as of today, yes. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to be appealing this thing next to the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn the judge's order here to try and get him actually released to his mansion on $50 million bail, wanting a GPS monitoring system, limited visits from family members, friends, so on and so forth. That is what they're proposing because of course, the violence I talked about in that piece inside these jail walls. They also, in the meantime, Hal, want to get him moved to a jail and/or prison in New Jersey. The judge so far has essentially said that is up to the Bureau of Prisons to make that decision. Nonetheless, it's all going to be on appeals leading up to the trial. His next court appearance, by the way, October 9th. So looking for that, of course, and any decisions coming out from the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on this order.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
The charges haven't altered his harsh reality. The glamorous lifestyle he's known for has been swapped for the brutal, isolating conditions of prison life, a stark contrast that most can't even fathom. His once vibrant world now feels distant, overshadowed by the unforgiving confines of his current situation.
Diddy Combs has been denied bail in connection with the sexual abuse and sex trafficking charges he faces. And as Les Trent reports, the music mogul who once traveled by private jet to all those mansions is now in a jail that is notorious for its bad living conditions.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs spent his first night behind bars inside a facility that is being called hell on earth. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is notorious for its appalling living conditions and rampant violence. How bad is it inside this federal lockup? There have been 2 murders, 4 suicides, and numerous stabbings and lockdowns in recent years. It's so out of control inside that 4 federal judges are reportedly refusing to send any more prisoners here. Donald Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, spent a harrowing year in federal custody. He says for someone used to a life of luxury like Diddy, prison life is a severe shock.
You have a desk, you have a plastic chair, you have your bed with a 1.5-inch mattress, no pillow, and you also have a locker. So you basically have 3 feet by 5 feet to move around. So you have a basic 15 square feet. It is a horrible, horrible place.
Diddy's lawyers were so eager to keep him out of jail, they offered his palatial $48 million home in Miami Beach and his private jets as bail. Today, they are even offering to restrict female visitors to his homes, except for his mother, daughters, and the mothers of his children if he is released. They told the judge the jail he was being sent to is dreadful, dirty, inhuman, and an ongoing tragedy.
How's your dad doing? How's your dad doing?
Family members appeared somber as they arrived at federal court in Manhattan today in another attempt to get out on bail. The judge cited Diddy's history of violent temper and potential intimidation of witnesses as reasons for keeping him behind bars. Diddy's former protege, singer Aubrey O'Day, is celebrating Diddy's downfall today. I feel validated, a win for women all over the world.
Combs has pled not guilty. Those were the only words he uttered in court yesterday.
Spotlight now faces the cold solitude of a prison cell.
Following breaking news right now related to music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Major new allegations today of sexual assault and exploitation by Combs. For the first time, we are hearing about victims who say they were minors when they were allegedly assaulted by the music star. The youngest allegedly just 9 years old. The allegations were revealed today by attorneys representing more than 100 alleged victims who are preparing to sue. So let's bring in NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas right now. So Chloe, we know there is currently a press conference underway. We do have a live picture of that. Can you just walk us through these new allegations and tell us if we've heard from Combs yet?
So the individual that you see on the screen right now, that is an attorney based out of Houston, Texas, and his name is Tony Busby. He's been a part of some very well-known litigation over the years involving a BP oil spill, even involving the Astroworld Music Festival crisis where some individuals were killed during a stampede. So he has made headlines before, but this is pretty shocking. So he claims is claiming right now at this press conference that he has had over 3,000 individuals reach out to his law firm in Houston, Texas, that he and his team have been vetting these claims, that now they are representing over 120 accusers, and that over the next 30 days they will begin to file different civil suits, that this is not a class action lawsuit, that they are going to continue to vet these allegations, but right now they feel strong about these. So he also said today that it's not just Combs that will be named as a defendant, that there will be other high-profile individuals, some household names. He says, quote, many powerful people, there are many dirty secrets. He says that his team has collected pictures, video, and that the allegations include violent sexual assault or rape, facilitated sex with a controlled substance, dissemination of video recordings, and sexual abuse of minors. So this was something else that they talked about, that there are 25 accusers who were allegedly minors at the time that these allegations took place starting in 1991, span all the way up over 2 decades. He also talks about where these individuals are from. He said that they hail from more than 25 states, New York, California, Florida. We know that Diddy had a residence in Miami, Georgia. We've reached out to Sean Combs' legal team for comment. They have not yet responded. Combs is currently being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn while he is awaiting trial on the New York indictment, where he is charged with racketeering, sex trafficking, and prostitution charges. Now, I also just want to point out that they also claim that 62% of these individuals are identifying as an African American, and that they are evenly split between female accusers and male accusers, and Clay. So this is very interesting. And he said that you know, look, I know that everybody expected me today or wanted me to name other high profile individuals. He says, I'm not going to do that today, but it will come at some point. He says that these names will shock you.
Wow. I mean, shocking details, to say the very least. And I'm sure just the start of what's to come. Chloe Malas, thanks so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Served time in a federal prison explained that wealth and fame mean very little once you're behind bars.
The case against Sean Combs might as well just be called the freak-offs. These allegedly illegal freak-offs. It's all about the freak-offs in one way, shape, or form.
Freak-offs?
Freak-offs.
Freak-offs. Freak-offs.
The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
Prosecutors say that these were elaborately produced events, bringing lighting in, cameras, linens.
Prosecutors said he would masturbate during these freak-offs, and women had no choice.
Alleged drug-fueled orgies, prostitution, and a cover-up. Freak-offs, as they're called, at the core of a searing 3-count federal indictment against Sean Diddy Combs.
Sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, interstate transportation for prostitution.
Now a look at the charges that threatened to end his career and his freedom. Inside the fall from grace from the powerful impresario, a reckoning that some say is long overdue.
He says, oh, I'm hip-hop. Yeah, well, you know what? Hip-hop deserves better.
During bi-coastal raids on his homes in LA and Miami, authorities say they seized various freak-off supplies, including drugs, and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant.
Federal prosecutors said Sean Combs did not act alone. He had assistants, managers, security staff who would make sure that women and male prostitutes were at these freak-offs, that the hotel rooms where they were staged were stocked with supplies like baby oil and lubricant.
For decades, Diddy reigned as one of the...
Many now asking how the man who allegedly behaved so abusively was able to do it so often and for so long.
The culture of silence was colossal. You know, it really protected Sean for a number of years.
These people think that they're so powerful that was never going to catch up with them.
Just this week, a new accuser coming forward, alleging in a civil lawsuit Diddy raped her at his recording studio.
The internal pain after being sexually assaulted has been incredibly deep and hard to put into words.
The latest filed by Talia Graves, who says in her lawsuit that in 2001, she was, quote, bound and restrained while Diddy mercilessly raped her. She alleges he, quote, video recorded the encounter.
According to Smith, Diddy's new wardrobe is now limited to a basic tracksuit and sneakers from the prison commissary. The designer clothes and custom suits are a distant memory. Luxury has become a thing of the past, replaced by the stark simplicity of prison attire.
And it's shown the video to multiple men.
Flashbacks, nightmares, and intrusive thoughts make me feel like it's a constant struggle.
Attorneys for Diddy did not respond to a request for comment on this case.
In court, as he's faced criminal charges, Diddy pleading not guilty and denied bail twice. Prosecutors painting a picture of the 54-year-old mogul who, behind his lavish lifestyle, allegedly hid a dark secret.
According to the indictment, the agents found weapons, including AR-15 style rifles, in Diddy's closet. The serial numbers were defaced. They also say they found recordings of freak-offs. And the evidence was then used to blackmail these women if they didn't cooperate more.
Diddy's longtime ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Cassie Ventura, filing a lawsuit against them last year that changed everything.
He would direct her how to touch the sex worker, how to pour like oil over her body, and he would watch these.
Diddy, like every other inmate, can only possess a few personal items. The reality is hard-hitting, with prison authorities conducting regular raids to maintain strict control. Attempts to gather more than the basics are quickly punished. Stockpiling is prohibited, and any extra comforts Diddy might try to retain could be seized without warning. The treatment within the system is harsh, with little room for indulgence. Even the simplest things, like a radio, are subject to scrutiny, leaving Diddy to navigate the relentless rules and regulations that govern his new, drastically altered life behind bars.
You were dating J-Lo. Will Smith and Jada tried to pick her up on a threesome, and you were going to beat up Will Smith. Is that true?
You really heard that? Nah.
What? Yeah, I watched it on the internet. You're telling me I can't believe everything I read?
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Accusations of harming women or children carry severe consequences in prison, especially for high-profile inmates like Diddy. While he's not a minor, if he's transferred to general population, GP, he faces intense danger, violence is likely, and he could end up with a knife stuck in him. Currently, Diddy is being held in a management unit which isolates him from other prisoners. This isolation is one of the toughest aspects of prison life for him, as his previous life filled with business deals, collaborations, and parties has been replaced with a stark existence of solitude. He has no opportunity to communicate with other inmates.
They won't even give me a permit for the parties, man. They don't want me to throw the parties no more. But we ain't gonna stop. We're gonna keep on having fun, bringing people together from all walks of life. You're gonna hear about my parties. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we wanna have a good time. You know, whenever you bring up a different element into people's environment, things that broaden people's horizons, people get intimidated. There's a lot of people out there that feel intimidated by it. It ain't nothing but breaking down racial barriers, breaking down generation barriers. People from all walks of life. Ron Perlman talking to Jay-Z, Jay-Z talking to, you know what I'm saying? It just goes on and on. You know, it's just like people from all walks of life connecting and getting together. Yeah.
Your parties are the hottest ticket in town. People dying to get into your party. How does that make you feel?
I mean, it's cool. You know, it doesn't make me feel any way special. It doesn't make me feel like a bigger person. It just.
While some may picture celebrities in prison enjoying TV or music, Smith describes a stark reality for Diddy. He has no access to entertainment, no TV, no radio. Instead, he only has a Bible and the option to choose one book per week, facing an isolated and monotonous existence.
Mogul Sean Diddy Combs in court this week for a status hearing. His attorney still working to appeal a judge's ruling denying Diddy bail. Denied it twice last week. The Bad Boy Records founder is being held by himself in a Brooklyn detention center, accused of running an enterprise of sex trafficking and forced labor. During a March raid, we all remember this, authorities discovered drugs, AR-15s, and an excessive amount of baby oil and lubricant inside of his home, 1,000 bottles of it. Former inmate and director and founder of Wall Street Prison Consultants, Larry Levine, joins me now. Larry, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with me.
Glad to be with you.
So this jail's conditions, you know, I mean, have been described as dirty, notorious for mice, maggots, inmate violence, power outages. I mean, you spent 10 years in 11 different facilities, so you know what life is like for him right now. Take us behind the scenes.
I was also at MDC Los Angeles. It's like a cookie cutter of the MDC in New York. So yeah, I do know. But he's sitting in the shoe. He's in the hole. And this guy is going through loneliness, anxiety, desperation. He's on suicide watch. And they hand out like psych meds, like they're M&Ms to these inmates to try to get them to cope with what's going on. So his entire existence is to sit in this little cell, essentially. He can shower 3 times a week. He's not getting any real visits. If his lawyer does a legal visit, they have to come upstairs into the special housing unit to see him. Now, have you seen these reports about all these commissary items they say that he could buy? Any of those?
What was one of them? Steak or something?
Ribeye, steak.
Yeah.
I mean, all kinds of nonsense. He's in the shoe, people. He's in a special housing unit. He cannot buy things off the regular commissary list.
So this is rocking his world right now.
He can buy a radio.
Yeah, this is rocking his...
The isolation Diddy faces is both physical and mental. His communication with the outside world is severely restricted, with only 300 minutes of phone time allowed per month. Just 10 minutes a day if rationed.
Treatment from other inmates, Larry. I'm curious in that, too, because we know that they don't take kindly to those who are accused of hurting women or children. They're not minors that we know of. But if he makes it to general population, how's he treated?
Look, if he makes it to GP, general population, someone's going to stick a knife in him.
This limited contact adds to the overwhelming sense of confinement and separation from his former life.
Denied his request for bail a second time, and the place where he's locked up now getting a lot of attention. The Metropolitan Detention Center, the only federal jail in New York City, is known for violence, poor conditions, and a string of celebrity detainees. And Diddy's attorneys want him out. NBC News' Yasmin Youssein has more.
From his $48 million Miami mansion to hell on earth where chaos reigns. Just some of the words used to describe the Metropolitan Detention Center where Sean Diddy Combs is now being held without bail after pleading not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering charges.
Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
He is not the first high-profile inmate to pass through these walls. Ghislaine Maxwell, R. Kelly, Pharma Bro Martin Shkreli, and crypto fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried, all as they waited for their federal criminal trials, called this jail home. But the conditions of the prison are far from homey, notoriously described as, quote, dreadful, as one judge put it. Some on the bench have even moved away from sending nonviolent defendants there. In April, a group of detainees that prosecutors said were MS-13 gang members in court documents stabbed an inmate 44 times in an attack caught on camera. 2 shivs were recovered from the attack. You see them here. The victim survived. And in the last 3 years alone, 4 inmates have died by suicide. And violence is not the only issue. Accusations of medical neglect, staffing shortages, smuggling of drugs, some allegedly facilitated by employees. At least 6 staff members charged with crimes in the last 5 years, according to the AP. Some accused of accepting bribes and providing contraband.
I've had clients describe NBC as hell, as the worst conditions they've been in.
Lance A. Clark is a federal defense attorney who's been there many times.
Now, if the government, they are responsible for your well-being, they have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
Occupy the streets until they get heat.
In the winter of 2019, protests over a power outage left inmates without light or heat for a week in the cold.
I understand how cold it must be in those cells, and not to have any electricity, any lights, and to not be able to communicate with your family is just inhumane.
The prison has about 1,200 detainees and is the only federal prison in the nation's largest city. The DOJ shut down New York City's other federal jail, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, back in 2021, 2 years after Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide there. A Bureau of Prisons spokesman telling NBC News they, quote, take seriously addressing the staffing and other challenges at MDC Brooklyn, adding the director appointed an urgent action team and they've increased staffing.
The MDC has historically had tremendous problems and the problems aren't resolved.
Combs' lawyers originally hoping he could await trial under house arrest at his mansion, now arguing for him to be moved to a prison in New Jersey in the lead up to this trial, citing the prison's poor conditions,